back to Interjections. Inter prevail 4-3 over Como. Game of the season candidates. 9 points clear of Napoli now, one step closer to the Scudetto. I'm your host, Andrew. Jae and Irfan here with me. Irfan, what was the highlight of your weekend? Was it the Inter win? Was it Milan getting trounced by Udinese? Was it Parma drawing Napoli?
Yeah, pretty good Serie A weekend overall. It's hard to say. I always revel in the uh the failures of others. So it was definitely nice to see both Milan and Napoli drop points. But in this case, I do have to say that I think our game was entertaining and it was a great result and it was a nice comeback. So I'm gonna go with our game.
Jay, can you respond to the allegations that Miko has been fired from Interjections?
Yeah, what a twist, right? I mean, despite all the rumors of swirling of Irfan and the controversy around Irfan's contract status, out of nowhere it comes that Irfan has signed a new Chelsea-esque 8-year contract and Miko is actually the one who's been sacrificed. So goes to show you can never relax. I haven't seen such a transfer saga since I think Wayne Rooney back in the day was rumored to join Real Madrid only to do a U-turn and stay at Man United. So, you know, it's exciting times for the Interjections cast.
Miko's wage demands were just ridiculous. He can have fun at interviews or wherever he's going next.
It's funny because there is actually a podcast called Interviews.
There- the free content English language inter podcast game is not for for the faint of heart. That's for sure. All right. Well, where do we even start? I mean, it was a full on disaster midweek when they announced that Lautaro was going to be unavailable for this game again, and just an emotional blow. We talked last episode, Jay, about how much this guy mean to this team and how he was going to pull us to a Scudetto. And then they announce he comes back, he looks great against Roma, and then he's ruled out again. So it just all your immediate concerns from the last three matches where we dropped points come bubbling back to the surface, and you're like, great, now what's going to happen? And it just compounded by a nightmare start against Como where all our worst fears come true. Como come out and it's just an intensity we can't match. We don't have a shot on goal for the first 40 minutes of the match. Pio and Thuram are on islands, and we looked horrible. And then when Paz scores to put us down 2-0, I mean, I'm guessing most Inter fans thought we were dead and cooked. Insert word. I know I certainly did. And then we talked last week about how much like Hakan's goal before halftime changed the game. He gave us the lead against Roma right before we went in, and it really course corrected after Roma were looking good after they had leveled. And it was a very similar event here where we scored on, I think, ended up being the last kick of the half. And if not for that goal to give us the glimmer of hope, we don't come back in this game. But it was just a pure credit to Barella, who was just Barella's in his best run of form in years, months right now. Like he is playing phenomenal football, and he did it again yesterday. He had two balls that both contributed to Thuram's goal. I know he was given an assist for the first one since it was obviously a cross. The second one, I don't know if that counted as an assist or not, but still, it was a great find to get behind the defense. Yes, in the first goal, he got behind that Villet guy, finds Thuram, and I mean, just what a critical moment in the match to score that goal before halftime to give this team a little bit of hope. And then, all what happened in the second half, it was like a Scudetto announcement because we looked like champions in the second half. We went out there, we dominated Como, we made them feel like school children, or we just went out and schooled them. And like we can talk. I mean, there were a lot of individual errors in this game, and we can nitpick them. And I want to talk about like some of what went wrong on these goals we conceded. But it's like I was really impressed with the resiliency, the spirits, and last month Jay had made a comment about how come we're never the team who can win a smash and grab game where we like demonstrate some brute efficiency and snatch one from the opponents. And we've now had two of these matches in a row where we produce like point 0.7 xG and we score 4 goals, 5 goals. We had 6 shots on target in this game and we scored 4 goals. Our xG was point 0.7. We really had no business winning this thing, but we were here. We got the job done. And that's not even before we talk about the nonsensical penalty that Como were gifted at the end of the match. So, Irfan, start with Thuram for me on this one. He has 5 goals and assists the last 2 matches. Looks like he's finally waking up from his midseason slumber. What do you think of him yesterday?
Yeah, I thought he was great. He was a huge catalyst for us. He was playing physical. He was finding space. He was, you know, being very opportunistic. Whenever he would get a chance, he would, he was locked in. Like even that second goal, yeah, the defender sort of messed up, and it was a long ball, but he had the sort of wherewithal to place the ball really high over the keeper and into the goal. So I think he's been in a great run of form. I think the team's just been a lot more dynamic. I know you mentioned this a few weeks ago, Andrew. We were talking about how this team is so predictable and slow, and it's this whole, push it out wide and let DeMarco try to cross it in to somebody to score. Like they haven't been doing that now. And as important as Lautaro has been for the game, I really think one of the keys to unlocking both Taram and Barella in playing so much better has been the return of Hakan. I think that's been huge, huge because the midfield with Zelensky uh, is finally like a competent, balanced sort of midfield. They have people winning the ball. They have people making the right pass. Hakan had 1 assist yesterday, and he had at least another hockey assist where he kind of laid the ball for Thuram, and then Thuram kind of hit it for Dumfries for that last goal that we had. So it's been it's been a great revelation to kind of see him return to really level out the midfield. Like we're actually creating from the middle of the field where we're allowing Barella a little bit more freedom to play. So I can't I can't stress how important it's been to have Hakan back. And I think that's had a great effect on Turam too, because, you know, Turam, we talked about this when he first came to the team. Like he wasn't a traditional sort of number nine. Definitely developed that way. He's been playing a lot better as like a real center forward. But the whole, you know, it out to Demarco and have him cross, it doesn't really suit Thuram's sort of game. Like the more you can sort of feed him from the midfield and from different places on the pitch and set him up for like 1v1s where he can outfit a defender, that's like where he's sort of at his best, and most consistent. And so it's been great to see Barella and Hakan in the midfield sort of finally start getting him the ball and some more space and some more dynamic positions rather than just him trying to like, level up in the box and look to get at the end of a corner. So I think it's been nice. It's been good to see. Like you mentioned, the defense was just atrocious again in the first half. Summer did the same thing that he's been doing the whole season, and we've been calling him out for, which is I understand you got to make the save, but you can't parry the ball back into the middle of the field. Like again, on the first goal, that's exactly what he did. So I think, he deserves some blame and for the way they played. The penalty, like you said, was BS. But yeah, I mean, it's been great to see just some more dynamic play. Like we're not playing like some provincial side who doesn't have any ideas. We're not playing like a one trick pony. And I think that that's really helped us have that sort of perseverance that we need to come back in matches, even when we're down or when we desperately need a goal. It's just a different dynamic. And I think it's been really nice to see. And it's coming at the perfect time because, we need every goal that we can get.
Yeah, and I want to get into the Cherubim summer stuff in a second regarding the goals we conceded, but let's take another victory lap before we do that. So, Jay, the other big storyline in this match is obviously Dumfries, who comes back and scores the 2 goals, both off really like dead ball type situations, and we got to see the Luis Enrique experience earlier this year. The team performed well when he was in the starting lineup, result wise. I mean, that was when we kind of won our 12 out of 13 or whatever it was. But obviously, Dumfries takes this team to another level. He elevates our style of play, and he's obviously a more talented player than Luis Enrique. So can you talk about his return and what it means for the team?
Yeah, you said it. He offers a threat that Luis Enrique was never able to provide. He provides a material threat, whereas Luis Enrique always felt like unrealized potential. Perhaps Luis Enrique's style of playing was a bit more fluid. As we know, Luis Enrique is not a bad passer, it seems, at least from the evidence from the sample size that we have of his, what, 15 odd games consecutively as a starter. Uh, and he's a fairly decent dribbler, good passer in tight spaces, and so on. So there's a fluidity there to his game that can honestly say is maybe above Dumfries' level. Dumfries tends to be quite janky, quite start stop. He's not a particularly good dribbler. He doesn't really try to take on his man all that much either. He's very much just a kind of lateral uh, power focused player, just attacking kind of unidirectionally with force. But his positioning is great, especially attacking that far post. His sense of timing is great. Uh, and he's got an eye for goal. And when you've got someone like DeMarco playing those diagonal balls from the flank, or playing that raking ball across the face of goal and trying to find a far post runner, we found that that was never a weapon for us when Enrique was in the starting team. Whereas with Dumfries, you know that that's his zone. He knows when and how to attack that far post, when to make that run. It's just so purposeful about it. And yeah, as you mentioned, he provides a great threat in that regard. And we've seen how useful that can be against the big teams as well. Dumfries had, what did he have? Like at least a handful of goals and assists, goal contributions in the two legs against Barcelona in the semi-final the other season. And you can see how important set pieces are at the highest level of the game, right? So ultimately, Dumfries is showing what we missed, and there's additionally like a defensive solidity there that Luis Enrique was never able to really match up to either. At the end of the day, Dumfries is just a bigger, stronger athlete than Enrique, and that always comes with its advantages too.
Well, let's talk about the defense because we have been leaking goals a little the past couple weeks, and there are some obvious moments we can speak to in yesterday's match that were not great. We struggled with the intensity at Como for the first half of this match, really. They were possessing the ball. We couldn't dig ourselves out of it. And it did feel like goals were coming, and they did, of course. Both goals were created via Nico Paz. Let's talk about the first one. He gets the ball behind the defense. He puts in a shot with his left foot, and Irfan, you said it, Summer parries it right on path into, I think it was that Villa guy again, and he's able to score without much of an issue. It, this did feel like a Summer goal, but I will say Paz did a good job turning around the Cherby, and Cherby looked lost. So we were praising Cherby last episode, but you have to admit both these goals we conceded led to poor closing, were the result of poor closing down by Cherby. The second, of course, being we get caught out on a break. I think it's a Kanji who goes and is responsible for the far post runner. So Cherby goes and tries taking on Paz directly, but he was scared of getting beaten for pace again. I don't know what it was, but just a really weak close down that you wouldn't expect from Cherby. As a result, Paz has plenty of room to curl shots with his left foot, which everyone on this planet saw coming, except for Cherby and Summer. And then, of course, Summer gets the fingertip on it and can't do anything with it. So, Irfan, I know you talked about this a little bit, but I was reflecting on this mid-match, and in my 20 or so years watching this club, this is the worst season of goalkeeping I've had to experience from this team in terms of just the amount of goals we've conceded that we otherwise would not have with just average goalkeeping. It's been exceptionally poor from Summer, and I don't want to blame him entirely for both these goals. Not talking about the penalty, but it was just another poor performance yesterday.
Yeah, you're right. It's hard not to think of like that. I mean, we have been spoiled for pretty good goalkeeping in our history. Like Inter's always had kind of one good goalkeeper after another, despite some dips in performances here and there late in the careers of our goalkeepers. But I do think that, on the first goal, I have a lot of sort of Summer because like we talked about, like you just can't parry it into the middle of the field. Like do what you need to do to make the save, obviously, but he's been doing that all season, and it's getting very frustrating. And you could see it coming from a mile away. On the second one, I blame him a little bit less. I do think it was just a really well placed shot, and he tried to get his hands on it, and he did, but he just couldn't get enough of it to stop it. Um, but my head kind of goes to two different places, which is like on the one hand, I don't really blame Summer or Acerbi because it's just so painfully obvious that both of them needed to be replaced this summer, and they just weren't. And you can blame them as older, declining players all you want, but ultimately, like they're put out there by the ownership and by the management, and they're expected to perform, even though everyone can plainly see that their skills are declining. And then second, it was just bad sort of it was just bad sort of tactics, right? In the sense that like if you know you've got a Cherby in the middle and you know you've got someone dangerous like Nico Paz and other players from a team that you know is going to attack, like you have to do everything you can to prevent them from being in a situation where they're going to end up being one on one with long balls being played in their direction, because that's just such a great way to exploit them. So I think just it's a tactical issue. It's definitely a personnel issue, but it was sad to see. And the penalty, like you mentioned, I it's getting really frustrating to me to see the sort of calls that Inter get and the complete like silence and just acceptance that our sort of ownership and management seem to feel on this. Like it's unbelievable that that call even supposedly went to VAR and was still made because it's just a disgusting sort of weird call. Like I don't know what Bonnie's supposed to do. He's sliding in one spot and the other guy kicks him and somehow that's a penalty. So it's just I couldn't believe that that was called, and it made the game sort of unnecessarily close down the stretch. Um, but yeah, the defense, is generally an issue. I think Summer is like the tip of that spear, but just in general, the defense has not been good enough. Even Akanji, I know we all praised, and he started off the season really well, but you can see down the stretch, like he's made some critical issues as well, and everyone in Inter world has been talking about Bastoni's issues on defense. So it's just not been good enough. And again, yesterday, I felt like we should have been a lot more prepared, knowing that this Como team loves to attack. Like they're pretty fearless when it comes to just like attacking, and they're very good at it. And we didn't seem to have many ideas going into the match, and it was not surprising to see them come out to 2-0 lead and look like the vastly superior team because our defense just looked so weak in the first half. But credit to them, they did clear up a lot of that. I think the offense kind of gave them a lift, which was great to see. And ultimately, it turned out to be a decent team performance.
So Jay, yesterday Bastoni goes and, as Irfan alluded to, he gets the tactical substitution at halftime, which is really unheard of in our world. I mean, we've seen him taken off for getting an early yellow card or whatever, but to get the hook at the half to the tactical stuff or even performance stuff is really unheard of, and it's hard to deny that the boos and the jeers and the whistles are getting to him, both in the context of the Kalulu stuff and the Italian national team stuff. So w- we all know how you feel about Bastoni, but what do you think the path forward is? Like, do you put this guy on the bench for a few games and try and right the ship? Do you make him play through it and hope he comes out better for it? It's like, how do you handle this right now?
That's a really difficult question. Uh, I've, as you said, been very vocal about how I feel about Bastoni and his weaknesses. And I felt like there was one instance where Carlos Augusto, I think it was near the end of the game, he went up to contest an aerial ball and he got hammered by a Como player. The commentator made a mention of it too. I can't remember who the Como player was, but they went up for the ball and maybe Carlos was a little bit not late as such, but behind or delayed compared to the Como player, and he basically just ate the full force of the Como player, meeting him in the air, basically head-on collision, shoulder to shoulder, full impact, and he did that thing where he went up vertically and got hit so hard that he kind of landed. He got spun 90 degrees and landed sideways, right? And he just got up. No bullshit, no bitching, no moaning. Won the header, if I'm not mistaken, uh, but got hammered in the process. And I was thinking, this is why I like Carlos so much. He's a gun. He's tough. He's strong. He's not as tall as Bastoni, but probably carries a lot more muscle mass than Bastoni. He just seems more robust, more athletic, more willing to fight for these aerial balls. And that's not to say that we should be playing him every game. There's also some contract issues with him, which we won't talk about today. But he's got a bit of fight that Bastoni is always been able to avoid having to use, I guess, or Bastoni has been able to implement his skill set and his strengths without exposing too much of his weaknesses. But it feels like recently he's been unsuccessful in that regard. He hasn't been able to disguise his weaknesses. He hasn't been able to utilize his strengths and play to his strengths. And he keeps getting exposed for it. We see this in Italy. We see this in at Inter as well. I know a bit of a roundabout point, but I'm not really sure what the best solution here is. I mean, it kind of becomes a do you, you know either sell him or don't. If you don't sell him, then you have to play him, and you have to try and hope that the coaching personnel, Kivu and fucking Kolarov, Palumbo, technical geniuses in our coaching staff, have the wherewithal and the kind of footballing sense to identify these are some of Bastoni's critical shortfalls, and these need to be addressed. And if we don't do that, then it's very predictable that other teams will continue to attack him, continue to put him under scrutiny, continue to expose some of those deficiencies in his defensive game, as well as the potential, I don't want to say inability, but the potential to cave a little bit under an extreme amount of pressure. Yeah, you play him, or rather you keep him and play him, and hope to address some of his weaknesses, or you just or you sell him and use the money on a different kind of player.
The Augusto incident you brought up was a little funny. I don't know. To me, that was so clearly a foul on Como that goes uncalled. And I appreciate Augusto throwing his body on the line. But there was a second where he was on the ground and he just looked incredulous. He was like, "What do you mean this wasn't called as a foul?" Irfan
But
kind of said it. And
you know
go ahead.
the contest I was talking about, right? Like that moment where Augusto just goes up and gets slammed.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Didn't it? Again, maybe I'm just being overly critical and just nitpicky and pedantic about, in like an anti-Bastonian way, but didn't that moment just, wasn't that such a strong juxtaposition to what we've seen from Bastoni? Like a much taller, pure centre-back in Bastoni, repeatedly shying away from contesting headers where you've got this kind of like shorter, more robust nugget of a guy in Augusto doing the exact opposite. And when you see like a shorter guy willing to contest these headers, put his body on the line and get smashed in the process, it's really good to see. And then on the flip side, it's that much worse, that much more infuriating when you see a tall guy refusing to contest headers. It becomes like doubly annoying when you see a guy who is so tall just like seemingly refusing to contest.
I can't think of any instances lately where Bastoni had like an aerial duel that he ruggedly won. And I'm trying not to be skewed by your opinions of him, but yeah, like I can't think of any recent examples of that. And Bastoni is and always will be a little bit of a finesse player. Like he's exceptional on the ball for a defender and kind of part of those shortcoming part of those skills are why he has deficiencies otherwise that you accept. So like I don't lose too much sleep over that stuff. It's why he's not supposed to be a central center back. It's why he's supposed to be out there on the left. He has good pace for his position too. So like I'm largely happy with how Bastonia has played for us this year. I just hate that he's going through this right now because it really does feel like he's being pushed out the door, not by Inter, but by the Italian institution as a whole. And despite everything, I don't want to lose this guy. Like I absolutely do not want him playing for Barcelona next season. And it just sucks that like this would be why we lose him because of an Italian media persecution of him that's we would all agree is unfair.
Yeah,
Well,
I
maybe we
agree
can
that.
just spend go ahead, Irfan.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I agree there. I mean, look, he obviously has his limitations, but he's still like on the world stage, considered to be a really good player, and he has like a very unique sort of skill set that any team would really want. And if he has some defensive, um, lackings and things like that stuff that you can work around. I mean, given his like talent in other areas, so it's I agree with you in the sense like it doesn't feel right the way he's sort of been persecuted, and like you can't help but think that absent that Juventus incident, there'd just be a lot more sort of popular support for him and otherwise. And I understand the whole Italian national team fiasco that happened, and how he was blamed for that, and rightfully so. He can't get a red card in that kind of a match, but it's just, yeah, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth the way it seems like even Inter, as a team, and Inter fans and stuff have sort of turned on this guy. I don't know. It doesn't give me a great feeling. And again, it is deserved. Obviously, these are professional players. They're adults. They're grown men. They can handle it. But yeah, I would be sad to see if, like, a series of sort of unfortunate events ends up with us losing this player. And this is not the topic of discussion for today, and I don't want to get into it. But I also have zero faith that any money we get for him would be redeployed in any meaningful sort of way. So that's the other thing. It's like it's not like if we do sell him, we're going to find some sort of replacement or spend that money or spend more money
We're
in a
linked
way
with fucking
that seems better.
Mancini.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Well, let's talk about the penalty with Bonnie just a little bit more because I'm not a referee guy. I actually hate talking about referees, but it's hard to deny what we're looking at over the past couple weeks. All really starting, you had the Ricci handball incident against Milan, and then you had the incident against Fiorentina, and the stuff was really just stacking up. And honestly, yesterday was the most egregious of the bunch to me, where you have universally refereeing experts saying not a penalty. Somehow they don't even send the referee to VAR to look at this, where you can see that Bonnie did nothing wrong. It's just puzzling to me how this is well, it's not puzzling, so I know it's happening, but it's just crazy to me that this continues to happen, and we're just kind of rolling with the punches. We're accepting it. We have a 9-point lead in the title race, so we're not complaining. But Jay, any thoughts on all these refereeing decisions, these calls that they keep getting wrong, that everyone universally agrees in the media they're getting wrong, that we just keep having to endure?
Yeah, like yourself, I prefer not to talk about refereeing decisions, but this one was a bit egregious, and I don't understand why. I don't even know it was a thing that like VAR can basically tell the ref to award the penalty from their station without even getting the ref to take a look at the screen. Right? I thought, you know, I'm not one of those rule experts like Miko, but I honestly didn't know that was a thing. I thought VAR would just say, "Hey, come and take a look," and that was kind of like the extent of it, we notice something on the replay, come and take a look at the screen, see what you think, or we think you made a mistake, have a second review. I didn't know they could just tell the ref, award it, because that's what he did, right? He blew for a foul outside the box. He originally gave a free kick outside the box, if I'm not mistaken. And then, yeah, VAR told him over the idiot walkie-talkie, no, that's a pen, award it, which he promptly did without even taking a second look at it himself. Again, to repeat myself for the fourth time, I did not even know that was a thing. And I don't know if it can be a thing, especially if we're not talking about like one of these obvious things like, outside of offsides, I mean, where the VAR does tell the referee that it was onside or offside. But outside of that, for a decision like this, you know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So a poor decision, obviously, and everyone was unanimous in saying, while Bonnie does play it a little bit, fast and loose, kind of hurling himself at the ball, he held himself parallel to the player, right? Uh, or rather perpendicular. Um, at no point did Bonnie come in contact with Paz until Paz's follow through basically just whacked Bonnie on the thigh. So it's clearly not a pen, and yet it was given without the referee even taking a second look. So again, I want to avoid talking about the referees, but that's pretty poor, I think.
Right, well, I think we can wrap up discussion there on the Como match. Maybe we can just talk big picture Scudetto. So obviously we're feeling great. It was a terrific weekend for us when you consider all the different results, and now we're 9 points clear at the top of the table. Irfan, this Scudetto race really does feel over, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, thankfully. It's been quite a journey. Obviously, we'll reflect on it after everything is official and the season's over and all that. But this weekend was definitely it definitely felt like a very decisive sort of weekend with Milan getting getting killed, really, just getting spanked, and then Napoli dropping points too. And it was good to see. It was look, honestly, it was nice to see Inter on the winning end of a match against a tough opponent. We can downplay it as much as we want, but it was a good result. And whenever your direct rivals are dropping points, that's always great. The table gets a little the table gets a little tight for everybody else outside of us. I mean, we can talk about that later, but the race to see who's going to finish the top four is going to be very interesting. And for us, though, I think it really comes down to getting very key sort of players back at the right time. The Lautaro cameo, which ended up being for sort of one match, was huge. But having Hakan back, having Dumfries back, just sort of giving more balance to the team, I think, and making us a little bit more dynamic, I think has made a big difference in our ability to score goals. And hopefully, we have enough down the stretch to see it through. The one thing I know has been sort of discussed all season, and different fans have different views about this, but honestly, I could care less if we end up winning the Scudetto and we've never had sort of a signature win over, a big club in Italy. Like I really could care less because I would challenge anyone over the last 5 years to tell me what our record was against big opponents. When we've won the league. So it's a topic of discussion now. It'll be a topic of discussion maybe up till the summer, but everyone will soon forget. And it's not going to matter that we lost like every match we played against a big club, except for some controversial win against against Juventus. It's just not going to matter. So a Scudetto is a Scudetto. A season is a long time. A lot of things have to go right. Usually, it's always the better team that wins. And in this case, if it ends up being us, which it looks like it's going to be, it deserves to be celebrated. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and when you think about the challenges this team has had to overcome, many of which are self-induced, I will add, it's a nice accomplishment to get this thing across the finish line. So I'm hoping we do it sooner than later. If you look at how the matches play out, if Napoli do everything they're supposed to do, we're going to be looking at the middle of May against Lazio being the deciding game. That also assumes we do everything we're supposed to do, which is never a given. But we've got a few weeks here ahead of us. We can go ahead and put a bow on this thing. Hopefully, lock it up and then say goodbye to some of these players who we really desperately need to move on from. So I'm excited by it, and we still have our opportunity for the domestic double because we play Como midweek next week, and that'll be a big step forward for us getting to the Copa final. So yeah, feeling good about things overall, and now maybe we can preview the Cagliari match this upcoming weekend. We do play on Friday, a little unusual, but they wanted to bake in the extra rest for us ahead of the Copa semifinal. So we host Cagliari, one of the worst teams in Serie A right now. They're not in relegation spots, but it has been a struggle for them this year. The real problem, in my opinion, has been the attack for them. It's just a really poor attack. They're led by Seba Esposito, but they just don't score goals at a high clip. You'll remember in the return leg against us, they barely created any opportunities. So this is one of those games you look at on the schedule and you go, this is as straightforward as it gets. It's at home. It's against the bottom of the table side. It should be nothing other than a thrashing. The unique wrinkle being we have the Copa semifinal a few days later, again against Como. So, Jay, from a lineup perspective, do you anticipate any rotation here to try and get us ready for the Copa semifinal, or is this go all out against Cagliari and figure it out later?
Good question. I really don't know where Kivu's head is currently at with regards to prioritizing competitions, especially when we do or when we have opened up a bit of a gap now. You know, not to backtrack on the discussion, but last night's win was so important. You know, to finally take advantage of a unexpected Udinese triumph at San Siro against Milan and uh, Parma taking points off Napoli, to be able to respond with a big win, especially considering the way we started that game, was was just of paramount importance. So it's now given us this 3 game cushion. Essentially, we could essentially lose 3 games on the trot and still win the league. Um, touch wood, that won't happen. But with that cushion comes a bit more comfort, a bit more freedom to rest and rotate for the stretch should we want to. But the question is, do we need to? Against Como, it is, after all, a semi-final. There is obviously a final berthing on the line, so it should be taken with a degree of importance, considering that I think, despite what Irfan said, I don't disagree with him that much, but I do think there is a bit of an asterisk over some parts of this season, and to make up, in a sense, for the lack of big big wins against name value opponents, right? I do think not just a Scudetto, but a domestic double would be really big for Kiva personally. So that is all to say that the second leg against Como on Wednesday or Thursday is an important game, and we should treat it as such. Cagliari is at home, as you mentioned. I think it's their 14th or 15th place or something like this, and the average table ranking of our remaining 6 opponents is like 13, right? We've got Bologna and Lazio, 2 absolutely just historically cursed opponents for the Scudetto run-in. And the rest of them are, Torino, Cagliari, Parma, and then I think one of the bottom 3, I think Verona. So, yeah, evens out to be about 13th place, and we should be dispatching these teams. So that is to say, however, I haven't. I gotta say, Pio was shocking against Como. I was really, really disappointed by Pio's game, and thankfully, our kind of our 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 comeback really came from nothing, right? Like we were non-existent for the first half, right up until the end of the first half where that chance came from nowhere and Thuram poked in Barella's cross. And like you said, kind of like Calhanoglu's goal, that goal was hugely important in keeping us in there and allowing us to kind of to go at it in the second half. But we were a really, really much a non-factor. And obviously some of that has to do with how well Como started, not just playing good football, but actually drawing blood twice, whereas other teams may not be able to do that, even if they put in a good showing. So I don't know how much rotation I would like to see against Cagliari, because on one hand, I do feel like someone like Thuram has to start, and Pio, we do need to kind of play him into form. He hasn't really had a constant stretch of starting games, and Bonnie has actually been a lot better despite the whole penalty incident. He's been better in his last handful of appearances. Like I've criticized Bonnie for being a bit of a stupid player and making bad decisions with the ball, always looking to dribble and not being reliable and so on and so forth. But honestly, Bonnie's hold up play in the last couple of games has been better than Pio's. Pio is just like what's the opposite to a magnet, or rather a magnet where the polarity is repelling the other magnet, right? Every time the ball goes to him, it just feels like it's being kicked away. He's just been unable to hold on to the ball. He's been unable to trap the ball. He's been unable to play that target man hold up function. Whereas Bonnie has been Bonnie's a strong guy too, and he's actually been able to do that a little bit, although a bit more with a bit more roaming, of course. So that is to say, I might be interested in starting Bonnie. I'd be keen to hear, or keen to at least consider what that would look like. Although I've never been a huge fan of playing Bonnie and Thuram together. Uh, Thuram is in hot form, so obviously has to play. Uh, Ironically, was it Irfan or was it Andrew who mentioned the importance of Calhanoglu returning to the lineup? But ironically, that's seen Zielinski take a bit of a back seat recently, and Zielinski had some really big games playing as this makeshift regista for us during Calhanoglu's long absence, and you know that was part of his story of the season. Zielinski finally kind of claiming a starting role in Hakan's absence, but now that Hakan's back, he's back to his what should be a preferred position for him: less defensive responsibility, more attacking freedom as that left-sided Metzala. But that's coincided with him having a handful of much quieter games. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can see some rotation on that front too. I would be keen to see more of Sucic, although he's been hot and cold as well. I think we can kind of run the risk, or take a bit of a gamble against a weaker opponent like Cagliari at home. They are not quite, but they have at least 2 games of a safety buffer from the relegation uh, zone. So I don't think they're going to be like exactly scrapping for survival against us. And, obviously they got a handful of matches left where they can be more strategic about trying to pick up some points and and secure their place in Serie A. So all in all, I think Cagliari would be the place to rotate a little bit, and not the semi-final against Como. So yeah, I think there's some opportunities there. Although I would need more time to sit there and ponder who to rotate, who to play, and who to give a run out to. What do you guys think?
For your Pio versus Bonnie point, I will just say they were both horrible yesterday in my mind. Gazzetta gave them both fives, which felt about right. I can't list one positive thing either of them did during the match yesterday. Pio non-existent in getting on the ball, holding it up. Like, you want him to be that release valve, especially in the first half when Como were pressuring us so much. You'd think, okay, we're working some backwards passes. We're going to kick it deep to Pio. And it just never came off. Like, I can't remember him getting on the end of a single ball. And then Bonnie comes on and it's a whole lot of the same, like no positive contributions. So I'd be down to give Bonnie a start just to try and mix it up. It feels like Pio's kind of hitting a wall here later in the season. So if we want to go that route, I'd be fine with it. The other option, which I'm not suggesting we do, but we might need to consider, is Luis Enrique starting our right wing back. I mean, Dumfries has been playing a lot lately. This field, we did start Luis Enrique against Cagliari in the first leg, and we survived it. Like this is a game you can probably get away with it if you want to do something like that. What do you think, Irfan?
Yeah, I kind of feel like, I mean, at this point, honestly, I'll take whatever. Like, I agree with Jay that it's pretty important for us to put in a good show when it comes to the cup, and I would love to get two trophies. But ultimately, it's kind of just like I'll take what I can get at this point. I mean, I know we're going to be hobbled without Lautaro, so I do agree that both Bonnie and Pio have seemed to sort of fallen off a little bit from what we had expected from them after a few really good performances to start the season. But I'm honestly fine either way. I think they both have skill sets that suit a specific style of play. So we would just have to kind of see how the lineup shakes out. I think DeMarco is a good sort of complement to someone like Pio. Whereas I feel like if we're going to start playing the way we've been playing recently through the midfield, then I think that Bonnie probably suits that play better than Pio. So we can't go wrong either way. We know we're gonna see some sort of rotation there, but whatever it is, I'm sort of okay with it. I'm kind of it's weird. I find myself giving Kivu like the benefit of the doubt here, where I sort of trust that he'll make the right decision. And maybe it's just being a sort of caught in the moment at this moment, but I have faith in him to sort of make the right decision to kind of see this out.
All right. Well, I think we all know we're predicting Inter wins here, so we can maybe skip to a Jay's hot betting tip.
Hmm. You know, the goddess of football has been extremely kind to us recently. Not only did Milan get is humiliated too strong a word, but look, there was a glorious result, let's put it that way, in at the San Siro with Udinese pulling a 3-0 surprise. Napoli dropped points. Fantastically, Arsenal somehow bottled the lead uh, in the Premier League and lost at home to Bournemouth of all teams. And Man City promptly pumped Chelsea 3-0. And that that result had even Chelsea fans celebrating every Man City game. And Tottenham lost as well, putting them in the relegation zone. Uh, and the only blight upon what was a perfect weekend was that those motherfucking worms, you called it, Andrew, those worms, those slimy sons of bitches, Juventus managed to get two big results in a row and beat Atalanta. From what I'm hearing, I did not watch the game, but from what I'm hearing, Atalanta dominated them for the most part, and then Juve scored from the one shitty, disgusting chance where Atalanta and Carnesecchi had like some communication fuck up, basically like some dog shit goal. So that's just like classic Juventus. And then of course we had to put Como to the sword and basically give Juventus that buffer for fourth place, which they richly do not deserve. So point is, the god of football is both kind and cruel. And next week we have the biggest match of the Premier League season so far. Man City hosting Arsenal. Uh, Arsenal's lead has withered. I mean, I say withered, but it's still fucking 6 points. They still have Man City still have a game in hand, and then they go head to head here. So this is kind of like a game of the season. Arsenal look like they're bottling it for the umpteenth time. All the memes talking about it. Everyone making fun of Arsenal and the Arteta's fifth bottle league in a row and so on. But I think I'm still going with my early season predictions. I still think this is the season that Arsenal do it. This is where they prove all the haters wrong. Arsenal pull out a courageous, emphatic 4-1 win away at the
Wow.
Etihad to firmly take control of the Premier League race and see out the title. So that's my incredibly, what's your favorite word, sizzling, red hot tip for the week.
That is sizzling. The entire world is counting Arsenal out. No one believes in Arsenal except for the men in that locker room. So for you to put your weight behind them speaks volumes about you as a person and your character.
I think so too. I think so too.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up there. Miko promises, claims he will be back next week. I'll believe it when I see it. But for those of you anxiously awaiting a Miko return, allegedly next weekend's the moment. Until then, I'll let Irfan do the honor.
Forza Inter, Forza Kivu, Forza Scudetto.
Forza Arsenal, I guess. Catch you all later.
See ya.